So let's get started. I'm here to talk to you, as Jesse said a little bit earlier, about combining Qualtrics and NelNet together to make even more personalized payment options for registration for workshops you might be having in programs, camp, whatever it might be. So I wanted to provide some helpful links. All right, so a little bit about what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to give you a few more reminders about using Qualtrics and NelNet for payment. I think I have a few additional things that maybe Jesse didn't touch on. I'm going to talk a little bit about methods that you can use Qualtrics to calculate your payments, and then how to access help in Qualtrics. I'm going to introduce you to the OSU extension library if you haven't used it. Sometimes when creating surveys, a lot of us will just copy what we had done last year and go from there, which is a great method. But I want you also to be aware of the OSU extension library that's in Qualtrics that you also have access to. I'm going to talk a little bit about and just introduce you to the survey menu and the different options that are in a survey. And then a little bit about communicating with Qualtrics. Last but not least, some other resources for Qualtrics training. I've got some links to videos that I've done in the past. And although the user interface has changed slightly in Qualtrics, they've still got some helpful tips in them. So first of all, a few reminders. If you have a mixed audience, in other words, you might have some OSU extension employees attending whatever this registration is being set up for, they cannot use the NelNet site to pay with a P-card or pay with their personal credit card and expect a reimbursement. So if you're going to have internal people that are attending the training who are expecting to see a refund for the registration fee, then make sure that you have set up an option on your survey so that OSU extension or OSU employees can pay using work tags. That is still possible to use a Qualtrics survey with a mixed audience, internal and external participants, but we just need to be aware that you need to offer that other option. Let's see, it can't be used for a payment method for Scarlet Canvas courses either. I'm not sure how many of you are working with educators in your counties who might have tried to set up a Scarlet Canvas course or might be running Scarlet Canvas courses, but we can't use those for Scarlet Canvas courses either. And then keep in mind about the digital accessibility exception requests. Our contact since Eric Owens left is now Matt DeVore. So if you have any questions about that process, then you can contact Matt for additional help. All right, so a few things about methods to calculate payments within Qualtrics. You can use what we call recode values, and this is possible if what you're trying to calculate, like what you're trying to pay for, as long as two of the item options in your selection for the registration are not the same value. So if you have an early bird deadline for 4-H members to sign up for camp, that's $150. And then you also have some other payment that's $150 as well. You can't have both of those in the same question to select the registration type and use the recode values option, because what it does, as Christina Bird discovered, it just makes everything the same price alphabetically in your data and analysis file that you download later. And I'm going to give you some examples. When I moved to Qualtrics, I just wanted to give you a heads up about, a little bit about the things that you can do within Qualtrics. Another way to calculate payment is to use survey flow and math operations and syntax in survey flow. So if you need to calculate a total, for example, they are purchasing 5 veggie trials, and each one of those is $3 a piece, and then you need to add on to that a shipping cost. So you can do all those calculations in the survey flow with some math operations and syntax. You can also create embedded data fields, and that's how you're going to do those math operations. And for example, the example I just gave of veggie trials, you can do a count of, how many vegetables they want to sign up for, and then calculate that by multiplying it by how much it costs for each trial, and then adding on that shipping fee. That can all be done in survey flow. And then it will automatically do the calculations for you, and then you can pass that value through to the NelNet website. We typically create 2 main variables that are created in the survey flow. Will be NelNet price, which is going to be in pennies, and then the total cost, which is going to be in dollars. So the slight difference with using Qualtrics directly and the URL generator that Jesse showed you a little bit ago is that we need to still talk in pennies instead of on that URL custom generator website that he has set up for you guys. You can put the amount in dollars. So in here, we try to put them in both so that we can display, for example, if they want to pay by check, we can display a total cost in dollars instead of freaking them out and telling them they're going to pay 5,000 pennies for a $50 workshop. And then you can also, that's what that last bullet point is, you can use that pipe text feature to display those calculations within the survey. So a little bit about communicating using workflows. We like to let people know that they have actually completed that registration form. And we typically will try to create a workflow for each of the payment types. So if we're allowing payment using credit card online and check and cash, I typically set up 3 different workflows, one for each of those payment types. There have been some recent changes to the contacts and directories and the way workflows is working in Qualtrics. As many of you know who have been around a little bit, we used to use email triggers, and now all of that stuff is happening in workflows where we're communicating with those participants or the registrants who have signed up to come to the workshop or the camp or whatever it might be. This is also where if you are the fiscal support person in the county office, you can copy yourself on those emails so that you know who has registered and who's going to be stopping in the office with a cash payment, or maybe they're going to call the office, or you're going to be on the lookout for an envelope from a person with a payment in it. And then also for if the fiscal person who does the NelNet stuff is separate from the other fiscal people, which is probably not true. You probably have one fiscal person in your office, then you know to be on the lookout for that NelNet receipt from the NelNet website. So I just have a few URLs for you. Keep in mind that the LOD team, we do have a YouTube channel. So that's a really good resource. You can go to that website, the YouTube channel, and you can type in Qualtrics and you can look for any recordings that we might have on there. I also have a NelNet URL generator Excel macro file. And I've created a Go link for that file. So if you are not in the Qualtrics NelNet support Microsoft Teams group and you want direct access to that NelNet file generator, then that's there for you to use. I also have, that's a direct link to an intro to Qualtrics recording. I think that one was done probably in early 2020 maybe. So some of these are getting dated, but we're still doing a lot of the same things, and the user interface has changed a little bit since I've recorded these videos. But I think you can still get the gist and the basics down by looking at these videos. The Qualtrics NelNet 101 was done for support staff conference in fall of 2021. That's one that Jesse and I did together. And then the Qualtrics NelNet 201 is also one that Jesse and I did together. That was a Wiser on Wednesday workshop. And that was in February of 2022. And then we also have, if you want to please brand your surveys correctly, I have a go link for that video as well. It's just a quick video on how to brand your survey. Okay, so how many have used the OSU extension library to create a survey before? I see at least 4 hands, maybe more, but I can't see that well, these tiny little thumbnails. So I want to walk you through how to use that, the OSU extension library to create a survey. But first, I want to show you how to get to help in Qualtrics. So this is my homepage in Qualtrics. The help options are up here in the corner, in the right-hand corner. So I click here for help. And I was just in help yesterday, so it might have, yep, it's still stuck on what I asked for it yesterday. Okay. So this is what the help window is going to look like. It used to open up on a new page, but it doesn't do that anymore. So there's several different ways you can get help. So say I want to figure out how to download a distribution history on one of my surveys. So I can just type in here what it is I'm looking for, and it will give me some suggestions. So here I have a support article that's on email distribution management. So I can click there on that article, and then I can open this up into a new tab if I want to look at it so that it's not scrunched into that little tiny sidebar. So here I can see that, oh, wait, here's my topic right here, downloading the distribution history on an email, on a survey. So this is an excellent way, if Debbie is not available, for you to get assistance with things. Another way for you to get some help is by using the same thing here. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the support, and you can do contact support. So I'm going to click here and it's going to open up. That's what this little icon means. It's going to open up in a new tab for me. And here, if it doesn't recognize that you're already logged in, you might see a screen like this. So to get logged in, I'm going to go ahead and click on this right here, Ohio State University. And it's probably going to recognize me and I won't have to use my Buckeye Pass, but it might make me use my Buckeye Pass. Okay, so it already recognizes that I am logged in. But this is another way that you get some support. So I can say, get technical support here. You can scroll down here. There's different things that you can access here. So if I click on get technical support, I'm going to most likely ask for help with the survey platform. And then these are the different ways that I can get support. I have tried all of these. My favorite is the live chat, especially if I just have a quick question that I want answered. I can just hop on here and wait for an agent to reply to me and say that they're available. When you click on one of these options, it's going to give you a form to fill out. Some of it's going to be pre-filled for you. You can type in the subject line, say you're having trouble with something. See, here I was having an issue with the new XM directory tasks and them not sending duplicate emails for me. So that's just one way that you can get support. And then we'll open up a live chat session with someone at Qualtrics. Another way is you can just use a basic phone call. You can ask them to call you back. Again, you'll have the similar fill out the form, tell them some basics about the question that you have, and they'll give you a call back. If you have not been into Qualtrics and not used Qualtrics, make sure you email me at lewis.205@osu.edu to get your Qualtrics account upgraded. Everybody at the university, student, faculty, staff, we all start off with a student trial account in Qualtrics. And then you will contact your division administrator, which happens to be me, for the College of Food, Ag, and Environmental Sciences, and I will send you the upgrade code and instructions. Once you have upgraded your account, then I can add you to an OSU extension user group. And then you can do use that OSU extension library to create things or just to pull in different assets from the library to help you with your survey. And I'm going to give you a for example right now. So I mentioned I'm going to start my survey from a template that's in the OSU extension library. So I'm going to create a new project. This is just one way you can start a new survey. So I just clicked on the bottom button in the bottom left-hand corner that said create a new survey or create a new project. And then I'm going to click here for survey. And then I'm going to get over here, come over here and click on the Get Started button. And here I'm going to do a NelNet demo. And this is going to be in the OSU extension library. Here, I need to select this option. Click on this drop down. It's been a while since I created from the library. Use a survey from your library. And then you get to select the library. So when I click on this, you're going to see a bunch of libraries, but that's because I'm the admin user for a college. So when I click here, you will have a lot fewer options. So I'm going to find the OSU extension library and I'm going to select that. And then I can select the survey. And I know that this survey is in the participant registration folder. And then this is called NelNet payment, one time, one fee template. So I'm going to select that. And I've named it up here NelNet demo. So what I'm doing right now is I'm basically checking a book out from the library. And I can make changes to my copy of this survey. If I instead went to the OSU extension library in Qualtrics and started making changes to this survey template, then that would make the changes for everybody that is a member of the OSU extension user group. So I make sure that I basically pull a copy out of the survey that I'm interested in doing from the OSU extension library. So I'm going to click on create project here. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in my folder for NelNet templates. Sure, why not? So I'm going to create project. Okay, so you can see here, there's a bunch of stuff here at the top that these are called embedded data fields. Whenever you see this $, curly bracket, E, these are embedded data fields. So I put some basic instructions here that tell you to go to the survey flow, which is an icon over here on the left, and select the set value now next to each of these embedded data variables, and you're going to change those. So I'm going to also add a short description of the event here to this question, and then I'm going to delete all this information. I'm not going to delete any of this stuff because this is going to help us with our survey so that we only have to put this information in once, and then we can use these embedded data variables for this survey and for when we copy forward this or we use this template again, we can just change the variables that are in the survey flow and use the template again. So if I come over here to survey flow, you will see these embedded data variables. So we're going to put the event name. So this is going to be Qualtrics and NelNet training. The event date. We're just making stuff up. So, and then the event time. Whatever you're typing in here is going to display on the survey once we click on that preview survey. So event location, so this might be OSU extension, or making stuff up now. And then you would put the address for the office. Because I don't know your address, Christina. Maybe use something that they can get with their GPS on their phone. Registration deadline, let's just say April Fool's Day, just so you can see what happens. And we're not going to mess with the current date one. And the current date is very helpful if you are trying to say, for example, you have an early bird registration fee and you want that early bird registration fee option to disappear from your survey after a certain date. Then you can use display logic on your answer, your question for the registration type that you want to select, want them to see to select to hide different answer options based on dates. Those are a little bit more advanced things, but I can show you how to do that in the future, but we're trying to stick with the basics here today. So here we have more embedded data variables, and you'll notice the order in the survey that I have these set up. So all of those embedded data variables that I just created that are shown in the first question on the survey are before the default question block in the survey flow, which is where we are right now. And then the NelNet price and the total cost are going to be after the default question block. This is where they're going to be selecting those answer options. So let's say this is a $50 session, and what a deal. And for a dollar amount, we're going to just say 50. And then I'm going to say apply over here on the right, bottom right hand corner. Then I'm going to go back to my survey by clicking either on the word survey or clicking on the clipboard. So again, though all of that was done in survey flow, which is the second icon down here on the left. So now when I go to preview this survey and click on the preview button here, we should see all of those things that I just typed in appear on the survey. So now you only have to manage it in your survey flow. And thank you very much for Sarah Carpenter. She's been using this method for, I think, a while, and I've kind of adopted it. So thanks, Sarah. But you can see that all of this is now displaying on our survey. So again, this template is in that OSU extension library for you to use as well. Select your preferred session. Maybe this is a workshop where they have a couple different breakouts, so they can choose to go to one session or another. If you don't have this type of thing for whatever you are doing for your registration that you're trying to set up, you can just delete this question by clicking on this little minus symbol here on the left. After you have highlighted the question, you see the blue box appears around the question that is active at the time. List required dietary needs. If you are not serving any food, then you might want to delete this as well. But I thought I would leave it on there. When you are describing your workshop or program, whatever it is that you're doing the registration for, make sure you add a you can even add a short agenda here on this first question. And then also add in, like, if it's going to be a flat fee, how much that fee is going to be. And then explain required additional accommodations. This is another question. If you already know, well, I would probably leave this question on there no matter what. Maybe you have someone in your audience who needs a sign language interpreter, or they need some other special accommodation. So just leave that question there. This is the reg data block, which collects the race, ethnicity, and gender for your audience. If you are already collecting that data elsewhere, then you can go ahead and take this block out. And the way you can delete an entire block is to come up here in the white space next to the name of the block. Click on this dot, dot, dot. Did you see how my menu on the left changed? When I did that, it's now the block menu instead of the question menu over here on the left. Then I can click on this dot, 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 and I can say delete block. I'm going to go ahead and leave it for this survey. You can also collapse blocks. This is why I like to work in blocks when I'm working with surveys. Then we get down here to our payment block, and you can see I've utilized those embedded data variables again so that I don't have to change the survey when I'm doing pesticide applicator training, or I'm now doing the soil testing survey to figure out how much they need to pay for soil tests and how many soil tests they want. You can always just type in whatever that is, even if it's a service or product instead of an event, and it will populate to here. Anywhere you've seen these, you see these embedded data variables. So for this survey, we have the credit card online, the check option or the cash option. We'd like to be able to offer as many different payment methods as possible because not everybody can pay with a credit card online. So it's nice to be able to say, hey, we're going to go ahead and offer the credit card online and maybe the check. And if you don't want to accept cash payments in your office, then you can like delete this answer option. You can see some display logics that are already built into these questions. So again, you don't have to go and do any of that stuff. It's already in the template that you pull out of the extension library. Let's see. This one is if they have selected their, they want to pay online with a credit card, then they're going to see this question. And I just wanted to show you real quick that I have selected, before I selected which question is going to be the driver for when this question is going to display, I clicked on this little end page down here in the bottom left. That's so that it will show up in the same page, because I want to make the last page of my survey, which is the payment block, I want it to say, I want the last button to say submit instead of next. And I'll show you that here in the survey look and feel in a minute here. But I can select the question. How would you like to pay for your registration? Then the answer option for debit credit is selected, and that's going to be my display logic. So the only people that are going to see this question are the ones who selected, I want to pay by credit card up here. And again, we have inserted the event name here. So your registration for the Qualtrics NelNet training is not complete until the fees are paid. Payment must be received by the registration deadline on, and then that April 1st deadline is going to display here. Then for the answer options, I have the first answer option is I understand my credit card will be charged, and then that total cost is going to populate here. And that's in the dollar amount instead of the pennies for the event name here. And then if they made a mistake and they want to use the different payment method, they can select this, return to this payment question, and select a different payment method. Then I have this question will only appear if they have elected to pay by check. And again, the display logic was set up the same way. This answer option looks a little bit different. I understand I must submit my check for, and it has the total cost before the posted deadline. It also has who to make the check out for, and then you can just update this information. If you want a certain person in the office to receive the envelope, you can put their name there. This will auto-populate with the event name for the attention on the envelope, and then you can put your extension office address there. So there's a little bit of editing involved here, but not a lot. Um, this is the you have elected to play by cash. Again, we do not want people to send cash through the mail. So there's several different warnings on here. Please hand deliver your payment to the office. Do not send it through the mail. It's a good idea and practice to go ahead and put your office hours listed on this question so they see that. And then again, we've got similar answer options, except we've inserted this registration deadline again, so that they understand they have to have their payment in before that registration deadline. And again, they can select one of these two options. This question will only display if they have either selected the I made a mistake on the credit card question, or I made a mistake on the check question, or I made a mistake on the I need to fix this one because that also says check. So let me just check that real quick. Yep, these are both question 15. So I'm going to change this bottom one to question 16. I made a mistake is selected. I'm gonna have to go in and change that in the template for as well. So this now displays as credit card, check, or cash. If they selected that, I made a mistake, I want to pay using a different method, this is going to display. This one will display once they have selected that I understand I need to pay. Answer options, then this will display, thank you for registering for this event. Remember your registration is not complete. Payment must be received by, and put the payment deadline there. It's already going to be populated for you because it's in the survey flow. And then they need to click the submit button below to submit your registration. This is the table that is used to create the URL that's going to redirect. So it's very similar to what Jesse was showing you earlier, except that this is even more specific because we have our actual NelNet price here. We have the first name and the last name of the person who is registering. So I'm going to just open this up so we can look at it using the rich content editor. And I have inserted these, everything in the third column. I have inserted using this piped text menu up here in the menu that says A with curly brackets. That's our insert pipe text. So for example, I have those embedded data variables created. So I know that I'm going to base this registration fee is going to be based on the NelNet price. So I'm going to click that A with the curly brackets. I'm going to pick the embedded data field. I'm going to select this drop down and I'm going to look for NelNet price and I'm going to say insert. And that's how I populate this third column. And again, since this is all built into the template, you don't even have to do this because the event name is already here in this URL redirect by typing it into the survey flow when you're setting up this survey. Here we can do additional comments. So if this was for something where they registered for a specific session, let's say, A with the curly brackets, that survey question where they said, select your preferred session, I can do selected choices right here. So this additional comments will display whatever session they selected. So I can type in session choice or something like that, because that will also display in that additional comments field on the NelNet website. And then I can, this address is also piped in already from the questions above. Then there's a little bit of instructions here. So you'll need to add this URL to the survey flow, and that's again already there. If you've made any changes to it, I've put the link to that NelNet macro file right here in this question, so you can click on that and use that file. And then this is the URL that was generated. So since I did make a couple of changes here, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how I use that file. So I'm going to click this link here and hopefully it will open. And if it won't open, if I close it, maybe it will. There we go. Now that's a live link. So this should open up into a new window. And since this is my file and I own it, I don't have to do that download thing. But if you are in here, you are going to have this option to download this file. So that's what you should do with that. Because macro files do not work in the online version of Excel, you can do the open up in desktop app. And I'm going to say open Excel. And then I'm going to have to do a new share with you. So we have on here in this file, there is a directions tab, and there is the Qualtrics NelNet URL generator tab. So make sure you read these directions. The first thing I'm going to do, because I don't need to do this download thing, you need to read this step number 2, especially because you're going to have to allow the file to read the macro. So I'm going to click on this enable content. I'm going to say, yes, I do trust this file. And then I'm going to go back to my Qualtrics survey. So I'm going to come to this question again. I'm going to open it up, rich content editor. I'm going to copy everything that's here in this third column. So I'm doing Control C on my keyboard. And then I'm going to go back to my Excel file. And I'm going to click on the Qualtrics NelNet URL generator tab. Clicking here in cell C3 because that's what the directions told me to do. I'm doing Control V on my keyboard, and now all these fields are filled in. The next thing I'm going to do is select my county. So I'm just going to pick Adams County. This is a drop-down. You just select it from the drop-down. Unfortunately, you can't start typing and it shows the county. So just select the county name, and then you're going to come down here and you're going to click this magic button that says, after filling out column C in the table above, click on this button, and this will give you the URL that's going to pass through to this. So this is going to the Adams County website. So I'm doing Control C on my keyboard again, and I'm going to go back to Qualtrics. I'm still in the rich content editor here because I have the menu at the top. I'm going to click on this source button, and this is going to get very ugly. I'm going to ignore all that. I'm going to go to the very bottom, and I'm going to paste this over the top of the URL that's there right now. Then I'm going to go back up to the top, and I'm going to uncheck that source button so it looks normal again. So the reason I do that is so that the Excel cell boundaries are not carried into my survey right here. So now we need to follow these directions. I'm going to go over to survey flow, and I'm going to copy and paste this URL into survey flow. Again, this is already pre-set up for you. I'm going to click over here, survey flow. I'm going to go down to the bottom. And if this was not already here, I would be creating after the payment block. I'm going to move that right there. So after the payment block, this branching of anybody who has said they want to pay by a credit card is going to see this, is going to be redirected to this URL. So I'm going to click on this little customize. And then I'm going to replace the URL that's in here. So that's blank now, and I'm going to do Control V for paste. I'm going to say, okay. Now the way I set this up, just so if you're doing this from scratch from your own survey, I just did add an element below here. And then the first thing you have to do is that branch. You're going to add a condition. So the question, how do you want to pay? And they selected the credit card, and you say, okay. And then you add that end of survey banner after it. Click on customize. click on Override Survey Options, and then this little radio button in front of the redirect URL, you replace everything that's in that box with the new one. Sometimes people do not delete what's in that box already, and what happens is the beginning of the URL will have 2 HTTPS's instead of just one. So that kind of messes up the URL. So if you are getting a message that it's not letting you make that payment, then that's probably the issue. So you see how there's one HTTPS, and I'm going to say okay here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and delete this because that was just for demonstration purposes. Yes, I want to delete it. And then after you've added that, I'm going to go ahead and click on apply. And then I'm going to go back to the survey again by clicking either on the clipboard or survey. And then I'm going to click on preview. Again, we're on that survey. Do you see how this says the Ohio State University is very generic? It's not extension. I'm going to show you how to rebrand in just a second. I've got 10 minutes left. So we're going to speed through this. If I can type fast. And I want to fill this information out so you can see where it populates onto the form. Did I get enough numbers there? Yes. And then I'm going to type my email address, but I didn't turn on my workflows yet. I'm going to say I want to do session 1. I don't have any dietary requirements. You can see that OSU extension at the bottom. I'm going to click on next. I'm skipping those questions. I want to pay with, you see how this is already pre-populated, Qualtrics NelNet training. I want to pay with a credit card. You have elected to pay by credit card. Select the first option below. And then do you see how my button changed to submit button instead of next? And then I understand my credit card will be charged. And then I can click on submit. And then hopefully it'll redirect me and it's to the Adams County website. So you can see all the information is here. Qualtrics NelNet training. I have the session 1 choice, the amount of $50, and you can see my address is already here. So I don't like the way that survey looked. I want to brand it with OSU extensions. So I'm going to show you that real quick. Third icon down on the left is the look and feel. It looks like a little paint roller. First thing I'm going to do, some of the template that I applied to it stuck when you pulled it out of the OSU extension library, but not all of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is scroll down about halfway. I'm looking for a blank template. This is the one I'm looking for. I'm selecting that. Next, I'm going to click on the General tab, and next and back is already applied, so that's perfect. The blank survey template, you can see that this is blue instead of red. So I'm going to click on Style. I'm going to, in the primary color box, I'm going to type BB as in boy and 4 zeros, and that will be our OSU red. I'm going to change my foreground contrast to medium. I don't like my font to be super huge, so I'm just knocking these down a little bit. If you wanted all of your questions to be bolded, you can click on this B right here and everything will be bolded on your survey, all the questions. I don't typically bold both the questions and the answers. I just do the bolding on the question text. And then the last thing is down here, I want this logo to be, instead of blank, I want to go to the OSU Extension Library. Again, there's a lot of options here. And I want to select this one right here that's got the Buckeye leaves behind it because I think that's pretty. I'm going to click apply. And then once we go back to the survey, you'll notice on the preview, it's now looking branded for OSU Extension, and all that weird gray background is now gone. Last thing I wanted to show you, and I'm not even sure if this is going to work, but we're going to check it out. I told you I was going to talk about communicating through workflows. So I'm going to click on workflows here and see if these stuck to the template. And they did not. So I did add them to the OSU Extension Library. So I'm going to create a workflow. And I'm going to get started when an event is received. So that's somebody has responded to my survey. I'm going to select survey response. And I'm just going to say finish here. Then the next thing I need to do is add a condition. So the condition is going to be that they selected to pay by credit card. Remember, I said I wanted to set up a workflow for each of the payment methods. So this first one is going to be by credit card is selected. So you just kind of click on all these drop downs and make sure that you have your condition correct. I'm going to say save condition. Then I'm going to click on this plus symbol below my condition that I just added, and I'm going to add a task. And this task is going to be an email. It's very slow today. So the first thing I'm going to do is go find that question where I asked for the email address. So provide your contact information, email address, and select it. Now, if I want it to go to the fiscal person in my office, I'm also going to copy them by adding a comma after the insert and before their email address. Don't use a semicolon. That's what we used to use. In this one, we're using a comma. And if you forget, it says it right below the box. It says each separated by a comma. I'm going to change this to my OSU email address, and I'm going to click instead of this QE email server, because you have a higher likelihood that this is going to end up in someone's junk mail. I'm going to change this to osu.edu. And then I'm going to type my name. And then my email address is kind of default there. If you're going to set this up for to make it look like it's coming from an educator and you want a person who clicks on the reply button to reply to the educator, then you can put their name there. So my subject line is going to be, I'm going to insert that event name using my pipe text. So I'm just going to hop down here into this box and I'm going to select the A with the curly brackets. I'm going to go find my embedded data field and I'm going to put the event name there. And I'm going to copy this up here. So this is going to be registration. And then this is going to be payment via credit card. And you can kind of see that I've already filled this out from previously. The new thing that's here that maybe not all of you know, with those recent direction changes in the Qualtrics directories, there is you now need to have a unique subject line, especially if you're copying all of these registrations to one person in your office. They're going to have a unique subject line or they're not going to receive the email. So I've added a confirmation number that I've just kind of made up with the response ID from Qualtrics. So again, to get that, I just came down in here in the box. I clicked on the A with the curly brackets. This time I clicked on response ID, and then I just copied and pasted that up in here. I did supply some templates in the OSU Extension Library, so I'm going to click on Load Message. Again, I'm going to look for the OSU Extension Library, and then I'm going to look for the one that has template after it because those are Debbie's. So payment by credit card template, you can see that it's populated here. So it knows that this is from question 2 on this particular survey. And you might have to redo this one because when I imported it from the library, it changed all my question numbers. I don't know if you noticed that, but I did. So do you see how that no longer says QID2, it says QID, yeah, 2,040,000,000, I don't know what it says. But we wanted to say the first name of the person who's responding to the survey. So thank you for registering. Again, we're using those embedded data fields. Total cost is in here. Event date, time, deadline for payment is in one of my other emails. And then this is the thank you for, and then I use an include response report, show full question text, and change this embedded data to none. Okay, and that's just telling me that I changed the to name in the body of the email. I'm going to go ahead and call this, instead of new workflow, this is going to be payment by credit card. I'm just renaming it in the upper left-hand corner. And then I'm going to close it by clicking on this little X on the right. Now, the fastest way to get to the next one is to go ahead and copy this one. So instead of clicking on it like that, you're going to scroll over here to the right, and maybe your monitor is large enough that you won't need to scroll over. But I'm going to click on this dot, dot, dot. I'm going to say make a copy. And I'm going to say copy. And then I'm going to scroll back over here to the left. So here's my copy. I'm going to open this one. I'm going to rename it. I'm going to say check. Okay, so here we are. We have copied our credit card workflow. You can see here the condition says credit card, but we want to change this to be the check version. So I'm going to edit the condition. And then in this third drop down here, I'm going to change this answer to check. And I'm going to say the last drop down is selected. And then don't forget to click on this save condition button, or it won't save the condition. I'm going to look at this email. I'm going to change the subject line just slightly by saying they're paying by check instead of credit card. So now my fiscal person in my office, Jane Doe, is going to know that they're going to look for a envelope from whoever this person is, because we've attached a response report. So all the other settings are the same. So I need to come in here, instead of payment by credit card, I'm going to do payment by check template, OSU extension. I'm going to look for that one that says check template. Okay. And then I'm going to change this to that other value, which I just copied from the template that was there before. Now, if you are sharing the survey with other people in your office, then you will need to change this drop down from the OSU extension library, because maybe they're not part of the library, to use fixed text. That way, anybody who's you're sharing the survey with can see what's in this email. I'm going to go ahead and click on save. And then you can do that. You got to turn it on. And then you can do that same thing for the cash one. And then the last thing, once you're done creating all three of your workflows, I've only created the two here for credit card and check. I still have to do the cash one. But I need to remember to go back to the survey. And once you're done with all your edits to the survey, don't forget to click on the publish button, and you'll have to click on this button twice. So it's activating my survey because it had not been activated yet. And then here you can copy this link, and this is the link that you would use to create your Go link. And then if you want to create that Go link, you go to the go.osu.edu website and you log in. And you paste your link that you want to shorten. And you create an alias for it. And just as Jesse was showing you earlier in the NelNet session, you can edit this link and you can also get to the QR code for it. So if I click here on the alias, it will bring up this screen. I can look at stats and see how many people have clicked on my link. It will also give me a QR code. So that's one way to access that. I can also access the QR code by coming over here to edit next to the link that I just created. And I can get the QR code from this page right here where it says QR code. I can also add users. So if I want somebody else to be a manager on this, I can add another user. And just click on their name. And then you want to save any changes that you make. Then I'm going to go back to the survey. And then if I make any changes after I've published the survey, it doesn't matter. I can still click on the publish button and it will give me the most updated version. And that Go link that I just created does not need to be changed. So that's it. If you've got any questions, make sure to contact me at lewis.205@osu.edu.